Are we not done yet, Ivy? I told you that thing with the flowers wasn't my fault. You know it, I know it.
You should have watered them. You said you would water them. Now there's only one left, and Strange has it, sealed in his vault.
Well, in that case, I think we can strike a deal. I need a way into his vault, and I think you're just the girl to help. If you get me in there, I'll get your plant. Deal?
I should kill you. Fine.
No kiss? I'm kind of disappointed.
Out now.
Hey, what's up everyone? Nick here. Welcome back to the Arkham City New Game Plus walkthrough. We are moving on to part 9, and we actually are going to pick up this video where we left off with Catwoman. So, once again, there are 4 Catwoman episodes that were originally released as DLC, but then in the later editions of the game, they kind of blended it all into one fluid experience, and you're going to see exactly how that kind of plays in this video. Because, so if you remember, at the end of the last video, Batman faced off against the Joker, and then the Joker basically, I don't know what I just did there, the Joker kind of detonated the ceiling above Batman, and it pinned him down and knocked him unconscious. And so you're gonna see that come into play in this video here. Anyway, like I said, we're moving on to part 9 of a 10-part walkthrough, so we're getting pretty close to the end. This video is really important because it sums up a lot of the questions we've had since the beginning. We find out what Protocol 10 is, we go about stopping Protocol 10, we figure out how Hugo Strange has gotten into the position he's gotten into. We kind of find out that he, well, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but a lot of questions get answered in this video. And then in part 10, there's going to, of course, you know, still be some solid content because we're going to have to wrap up the game somehow. But part 9 is probably story-wise the most important part of the game. So I'll go ahead and just throw that out there now. But anyway, we start off as Catwoman, and our goal here is to break into Strange's vault. So basically what Catwoman's saying is she's saying, you know, when they put all the prisoners in here, they had to have done something with their possessions. Think of all the money and drugs and other goodies that all these prisoners must have had going into Arkham City. So Catwoman wants in on that. It's a pretty big heist, and kind of leads me to a point that I meant to talk about earlier in the walkthrough, but I just never had the chance. What is Arkham City? Now, I mean, most of you have probably put 2 and 2 together, but basically, Arkham City was Hugo Strange's plan, where he said, hey, what if we sanction off an entire part of Gotham and convert it into a large open city prison? We basically throw all the prisoners in there, throw some guards in there, and say, hey, prisoners, have at it. If you want to kill each other, kill each other. If you want to loot, loot, but you are now stuck in this part of the city. As you can imagine, it was a highly controversial idea. The Gothamites were saying, you know, what are we doing? We're destroying part of our city, and we're putting the scum in there. So it's a big deal. And at the beginning of the video, or at the beginning of the walkthrough, you saw that Bruce Wayne himself appeared at a press conference where he was opposed to the idea. He was saying, you know, why are we letting them do this to our once great city? So it's pretty interesting. It's an interesting concept, you know, just having this whole city of criminals, and you basically throw in some guards just to make sure that the criminals don't escape, and other than that, you let them pretty much run it themselves. So like you saw at the beginning, Two-Face, he had captured Catwoman and he planned to execute her. Had Batman not intervened, that's exactly what would have happened, because the guards were just told to let Two-Face have his fun, let him do what he's gonna do. Alright, so we're going to have to actually do some stealth as Catwoman here. It's actually a little difficult. This room is very hard to navigate. There's not a lot of great cover opportunities, but what we're going to focus on now is we have to get 3 key cards. So a lot of these guards are holding key cards, and you have to get all 3 of them in order to progress through the objective. So you'll see the easiest way to do this is just by doing what I'm doing here. Don't stay on the ground. You'll see that the ceiling is kind of like a chain link fence, and that's what Catwoman can crawl on. So that's exactly what you're going to do, once you get all 3 key cards, you're going to return to the control room here. And you can drop down and activate the vault's unlocking mechanism. So there we go, 1. What comes after 1? I'm guessing 2. And 3. Look at that.
What's going on?
What's going on?
Is this a drill?
Sometimes they ask such stupid questions.
Is this a drill?
Alright, so anyway, after this happens, now the guards are going to be on high alert. Now they're going to be patrolling the area, and now we have full reign to take them out. So ideally what you're going to want to do here is stick to only silent takedowns. Like I said, the geometry of this room makes this encounter actually kind of difficult. 2 of the enemies are going to stay in front of the door for the majority of the time, but then you see right here, like all 4 enemies are kind of hanging out by the door. So what are we supposed to do? We can't really do anything if the enemies aren't moving around. So the main thing here is you just got to be patient. You just have to take it slow, let the guards isolate themselves naturally, and then just take them out one by one. Obviously, that's easier said than done. The hard part here is Catwoman, she doesn't have smoke grenades, so, you know, ideally if we were playing as Batman, we could just throw the smoke grenade by the door, take out all 4 enemies with our fists, and be done with it. But with Catwoman, that's not really an option. So you'll see this guy above me here, or below me, I should say. But yeah, I'm just having to be patient right now, because the enemies are, they're just not playing my game. But finally, you see one of these guys decided to isolate himself, so I'm going to go in for the silent takedown. And now there are only 3 guys left. Now, once you start to take down more and more of these guys, the other 2 should start to kind of naturally wander around the room, investigate, and that will make your life slightly easier. But like I said, for the most part, you're going to want to stick to only silent takedowns. Now you can see I could do a silent takedown right now, but obviously that guy next to him is more than likely going to notice something's going wrong, and then also notice that the other guy has heavy armor on. So that's something we have to pay attention to. And keep in mind, the only reason I'm not over there taking out the other guy is because when an enemy finds one of his friends lying unconscious on the floor, he will check the above ceilings. Now you'll see right here the other guy finally kind of turned around, so that's when I'm going to make my move. I'm going to do that silent takedown, and now I'm going to hop immediately back up. That guy should be fired because I literally just took down his buddy right next to him, and he was completely oblivious the whole time. So obviously not a good choice of, obviously not a good employee for Hugo Strange. Alright, so now I'm going to throw a device over to that guy, and what I'm trying to do is I'm not actually trying to take him down with those things, I'm just trying to lure him over here. Because you can see right now he's kind of standing right in front of the other guard, so that doesn't do me much good.
Check your numbers.
Move it! Another casualty at my location.
Alright, so now they are fully aware of the guy that I just took down. I don't know how it took them so long. But, yeah. So now my job here is just to lure this guy over to me. So that's why, once again, I threw something at him. He's going to look up at the ceiling. And hopefully he'll run over here to investigate.
Contact. Enemy device found.
Yep, enemy device found. Enemy device literally hit you in the face. You'd think you would be a little more intrigued at this point, but that doesn't seem to be the case. And that's kind of why I don't like this encounter. It's kind of annoying in the sense that the enemies just they don't respond realistically. They don't spread out, and it's really annoying because you have to take things really slow. So, what am I doing? I'm just hanging out. Literally, terrible joke. But that's the point I'm at right now. I don't know how they don't see her too. Like, the ceiling's not that high up. She's not very well hidden. But anyway, the enemies have spread out to the point now where I feel like I can maybe get a jump on this guy, so I'm going to wail on him. Again, the reason you got to be careful is because both of these guys are wearing heavy armor, so as soon as you engage in combat, the other one's going to hear. So at that point, there was enough distance where I felt comfortable just taking him out, and now this guy's going to go investigate, and I can just finish off the job. Easy peasy. Alright, so that was a perfect encounter at least. We didn't take any damage. We basically remained in stealth the entire time. And now we can enter the vault. So this is where Poison Ivy's little plant is. And the briefcases as well.
It appears we have caught our intruder. Teach her a lesson.
Alright, so one last thing we got to take care of before we can get out of here is a couple enemies are going to ambush us in this room. The hardest part about this fight is that it's just a very small room, so you don't have a lot of room to kind of bounce around and spread out the fight. So yeah, the best thing working for you in this point is just to build up your combo meter and then use the instant takedown. Preferably use it on the big guy to get him out of the way as soon as possible. And now it really just becomes a standard fight. So once again, I built up my combo. I'm going to use the instant takedown right away. Kind of, you know, little down, level the playing field. Again, it's built up. Go ahead and use it. And that's going to be your strategy here. Just build up that counter combo indicator, use the instant takedown, and eventually that should do the trick. So you see right here, no damage taken, relatively quick and easy. Not too much to worry about. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab the briefcases. One funny thing is you'll see that plant sitting there on the table. If you actually go to pick up that plant, Poison Ivy will just, Catwoman will just say screw it, and she'll just throw the plants on the ground. And I'm sure Poison Ivy isn't too happy about that. Now, interesting thing here, you're going to approach this screen where you can see Batman pinned down, and you're going to actually be given an option. You can run away with the treasure and be done with Arkham City, or you can do the right thing and go save Batman. And a funny thing is, if you actually choose the former, if you choose to just run away with the treasure, the game will end, and you'll actually hear this, you'll hear this dialogue like, Batman is killed, basically, and it's just kind of interesting to listen to. So if you're playing along, I encourage you to just do the other option to see what happens, because you'll just have to redo this section over again, the combat section, I think, and then you'll have to make the choice, and you'll have to do the right choice no matter what. Anyway, go ahead and proceed down here. That will trigger a short cutscene, and we will pick up where we left off as Batman.
See what I give up for you, Batman. You better not be... Well, what do we have here? Figured you could use my help.
You're right. I think I chipped a nail back there.
You stick with the brooding. I'll handle the wisecracks. I guess we both know what Protocol 10 is now, right? If you're planning on stopping it, you need to hurry.
Oracle. Strange is launching missile strikes on Arkham City from Wonder Tower. You shut this place down. Joker's taken Talia. I'm going after them.
You can't. Hundreds will be killed. I need your help to stop the attack.
He'll kill Talia.
You need to think this through. Batman can't let all these people die.
My tracker's not activating. Reroute all Wayne Tech satellites to boost the signal.
I can't do that. I realize it is difficult, Sam. But you need to decide if one life is worth sacrificing to save 1,000.
Don't do this, Alfred.
Batman must save Gotham. I'm sorry, but deep down, you know I'm right.
Oracle.
Alright, so what we have to do from here is we have to get close to a number of these helicopters, and we have to scan them to see if they're the ones that have the codes, and we have to do this to stop Protocol 10, which it has now been revealed. It is basically, the whole plan has been to lock up all these prisoners in Arkham City and then perform like basically a mass execution. So I left that piece of dialogue in there and I didn't talk over it. Even though it wasn't a cutscene, I felt like it was a really interesting piece of dialogue, because basically what we're presented with here is the classic philosophy trolley problem. You know, you have a trolley on a track. Do you let it run over one person, or do you divert the track so that it, or I mean, do you let it run over a bunch of people, or do you divert the track so that it only hits one person? That's what Batman's facing here. Does he save Talia from the Joker, or does he save all of these people locked in Arkham City from Protocol 10? And so, on that level, it's just the classic trolley problem. This is a problem that's been considered and debated for a long time now. But what makes it interesting is that you have this new element. Now you have the fact that the many people that Batman can save are all criminals. They are in Arkham City because they are criminals. Now, granted, not all of them deserve to be here. Some of them are political prisoners. But it's an interesting thing to consider, and I love, the reason I left that dialogue uninterrupted is because I love the little back and forth between Alfred and Batman. Alfred's telling him, you know, Bruce, listen, I know you love Talia, but you need to save Gotham. You need to save these people. It doesn't matter if they're all criminals or not. You're Batman, and that's what Batman would do, and deep down, you know I'm right. And I really like that little exchange, because it really shows how important Alfred is to the Batman mythos. I feel like Alfred can sometimes be an overlooked character because, you know, he's just in the Batcave. And in all honesty, if you were to just have watched the movies, Alfred played an important role, sure, but it's not as important, and that's because, you know, when you're watching a movie, you don't want to see some old man sitting at a computer in the Batcave. You want to see Batman. But I'll tell you right now, if you read the comic books, if you go and pick up a DC comic book, a Batman book, Alfred plays a much bigger role in the comic books. He really is a mentor, not only to Batman, but to all the young sidekicks and other heroes that Batman works with. And I personally love Alfred. I love Michael Caine's, I think that's his name. I'm bad with actors' names. I love Michael Caine's performance of him in the Dark Knight trilogy. But I think that little brief exchange really shows how much of an influence and how much of an impact Alfred has on what goes on in Gotham City. And he's one of my all-time favorite characters. But anyway, eventually you'll find the right helicopter, you'll get the codes, and now we can go about stopping Protocol 10. So you might have noticed while you've been flying around Arkham City, there's this giant tower in the center. It kind of looks like the Seattle Space Needle, or whatever that thing is called. But our goal now is to get to the top, because that is where Hugo Strange is running things. And believe it or not, it's actually quite a challenge to get up there. There's going to be, so we can't just, for whatever reason, we can't just like hop in the Batjet and fly up there. We have to get in through kind of like a secret underground passage. So you're gonna follow your green objective marker, and that's gonna basically lead you right to it. But yeah, guys, this is part 9, and we're getting close to the end, if you couldn't already tell. And so you're going to see here, guarding the entrance are 2 snipers. So if you can, you might want to take out the disruptor and try to disrupt their weapons. Not fully necessary. You see here, I was able to disarm one of the guys, and then I can just sneak up behind this guy, no problem. But guys, I have to say, you know, I typically, you guys, I'm trying to think how to word this. Most of the time I'm just playing these games, and I don't try to persuade you into buying the game for yourself. I give you my honest opinion of the game, and that's that. But I will tell you this: if you've been enjoying this series, if you've watched the other games, Arkham Origins, Arkham Asylum, whatnot, and if they've interested you, I would highly recommend, if you have just a couple bucks to spare, going down to your local comic book store and picking up a Batman comic. To give you some, or actually I better hold off on that, because we're about to see a short piece of dialogue with Hugo Strange. But trust me, you're going to want to stick around, because I'm going to expand on what I was about to say with going to the comic book store. But anyway, enter this room here, jump down, and for now don't worry about the guards. You're going to, or actually I think you have to fight these 3 guys, but then there's going to be a dialogue with Hugo Strange.
Stop right there, Batman. We need to talk. And I know you wouldn't be able to live with yourself if your actions caused this poor man to die. I have a question for you. Before my arrival, this city was drowning under a tide of filth. Have you ever considered that all this is your fault? Your presence creates these animals. Like germs, they spread. You created the environment that allowed the germ to mutate, to become stronger. Look at the Joker. Would he even exist if not for you? It must be depressing. All your sacrifices, and yet you are the one to blame. Oh, this is beautiful. We have at long last defeated the great Batman. Soon, I will take my rightful place at my master's side. We will rule over this world. So thank you, Batman, for all your help. Now,
Alright, once he's done talking, you're going to go ahead and engage all of these guys. At this point in the game, you're familiar with the combat. You should be pretty good at it, so not a whole lot to worry about here. Same general strategies. Try to spread out the fight, build up that combo meter, and use the battering takedown. Nothing you haven't done already. But anyway, I want to expand on my last point. What I was trying to say was, if you guys have a couple bucks to spare, and if this game is interesting to you, I highly recommend you go down to your local comic book store and purchase a Batman comic book. So, in fact, last year, almost 1 year ago, I think it was about 13, 14, maybe 15 months ago, DC completely relaunched their comic book universe in something called DC Rebirth, and they basically released all new #1s for everyone. Batman, Superman, everyone. They restarted the DC universe. And so if you go down to the comic book store, I'm sure you'll be able to find Batman #1 or something like that. But you don't even have to be that specific. Just pick up a Batman comic book. Because I'll tell you, it was Arkham Asylum that got me into comic books and got me into collecting comic books. And it was and still is a really big part of my life. I know this is probably going to sound childish, and you know I don't care. I'll admit it. The heroes in these comic books really do kind of inspire me and motivate me. And you know, a month ago when I was in the hospital being diagnosed with my diabetes, when I got out, the comic books were a big deal for me because they just I don't know, they really kind of kept my spirits high. Anyway, you saw a small cut in the video there. You're going to go down, and I think there was just a loading screen that I cut out, but you're going to enter the sewers here, and we're going to sneak once again back to a familiar location. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that comic books are very important to me, and the comic book, I mean, keep in mind, all of these movies, all of these games, they are derived from the comic books. The comic books are the source material. So just, you know, keep in mind that by reading the comic books, you're being exposed to so much more, because the games can only take so much from the books, but the books are where the real bulk is at. Anyway, go ahead and break through this floor right here, and you're going to drop down, and there's going to be a short dialogue with someone we rescued earlier.
It's you.
I told you I'd be back.
Well, you took your time. It's crazy back there. First Joker's men came down here and started setting up camp. I did what you said and hid, but...
What happened?
There were guards. You know, the ones that work for Strange. They came down and started killing everyone. It was a bloodbath.
It sounds like Strange is trying to cover his tracks. You seem to be good at hiding, Doctor. Stay here and do it again. I'll deal with the guards in that room.
Alright, so once again, you should recognize this location. We're going to have another stealth encounter to deal with, and as usual, there's going to be a signal jammer in the room with us, so you might want to make him your priority. Luckily, right off the bat, he's going to isolate himself in this corner, so you can go ahead and do a stealth takedown, and there you go. Your life is now, never mind, your life is not easier. I forgot that there are 2 signal jammers in this room. So you might want to make that next guy your priority, or you can switch things up. You don't have to take out the signal guys first, the jammer guys first. As long as you can get a good vantage point and kind of survey the area, you can get through this without even needing detective vision. It's just detective vision obviously makes things a lot easier. But anyway, so you saw right there, I took out the first signal jammer. Now I'm going to disrupt this guy's weapon. I'm also going to disrupt this guy's weapon. And that's because those are the two heavily armored guys. So it's nice to kind of mitigate their threat as much as you can. Now, I kind of wish I had saved it for that mine right there, because that enemy walked in the perfect location. But, you know, like I said, you guys, if you're this far in the game, you're used to the stealth encounters. I'm going to go ahead and perform an inverted takedown. Now, remember, as soon as you do that, you might want to switch to a different gargoyle, because the enemies will immediately investigate. And now this idiot, he's going to go right under me. So there you go. That's a 2-for-1 special. 2 inverted takedowns in a matter of seconds. But yeah, like I said, if you're this far in the game, you probably know how to do this, and you'll know that there are 100 different ways you can approach these stealth scenarios. So there's no one correct way. But yeah, guys. So keep in mind what I was saying before this. Arkham Asylum got me into comic book collecting, specifically DC comics, and comic books now are a very huge part of my life. I really love collecting them. I've become friends with the guy who owns the local comic book store. Plus, it's a really good way to support small business. Comic book stores nowadays they're kind of at risk because everything is going digital, and you know, a lot of people are wanting to buy their comic books digitally, and Amazon has a service for that, just like everything else. So one thing, though, is I think one thing that makes comic book collecting special is actually having the physical comic book. Like in my room right now, next to me right now, is a giant filing cabinet with thousands of comic books in it, and each comic book is bagged and boarded in a nice plastic wrap with a cardboard backing. And I just sometimes really like, even if I'm not reading the books, I like to just open the shelf or open the drawer and just look at all of them nicely. You got to understand, I'm a very organized person. I'm one of those guys that loves organizing things. So to open a filing cabinet and just see all of these comic books in alphabetical order, all in perfect condition, I really enjoy that, and that's what makes collecting fun for me. So I wouldn't get that from digital comic books, but the point is, I support my local comic book store by shopping there, and I become friends with the guy who owns it. And who knows, you know, it's come to the point where if for whatever reason physics didn't work out, I could probably get a job there, and I would honestly be happy doing that for the rest of my life, just working in a comic book store. But anyway, the point of all sometimes I get so off track. The point of all this is that if you guys are enjoying this series, I definitely encourage you to just stop by your local comic book store and buy a comic book. Try it out. Now, I took kind of a lot of damage here. That was a bit sloppy. I probably should have re-recorded this, but that's okay. You can do better than me. Again, there's no one right way to do it. I think at this point I was just kind of like ready to be done with the game because I've played this game so many times. But also keep in mind, one last note on the comic book thing. It doesn't have to be DC. Personally, I prefer DC. I do not like Marvel comic books. I really don't care for like the independent comic books. The only other book I read, basically the only other things I read besides DC books are Star Wars books, which happen to be owned by Marvel. So I do read the Star Wars comic books. Like they have a Darth Maul series going on right now, and they just started a Mace Windu series. So those are really interesting to me. And then I also read The Walking Dead, which is produced by or published by Image. But keep in mind, there is a comic book for everyone. There's a couple horror series that are supposed to be really good. There's some fantasy comic books. Ninja Turtles has a really strong. Power Rangers has a good comic book series. There's just so much. There's so much to look through, and it's just a lot of fun to dig through the boxes at your local comic book store. It's a lot of fun for me, and I really enjoy going every week. And with that, I'm going to stop being a total nerd, and I'm going to try to get back to doing actual commentary, because this next part is pretty tough. I was just thinking, God, if someone were like listening to my commentary, my friend makes fun of me sometimes and calls me a giant nerd because you got this kid making video game walkthroughs who is obsessed with physics and math, and now I'm sitting here talking about my 2,000 book comic book collection. But I don't care. I reached a point once I got to college in high school. So here's a little Nick trivia. In high school, I was relatively popular. Not super popular, but I had, you know, people liked me. I was one of those guys that was kind of friends with everyone. And so in high school, I really cared about what people thought of me. And then I got to college, and when I started college, I wanted people to think I was cool. And then I realized that what people thought was cool was whoever could get the most drunk at a party. And given the fact that I don't drink, that instantly made me the least coolest person in the dorm hall. So I very quickly grew a thick skin in college and started to change my mindset, and I reached this point where I just honestly do not care what people think of me, except for, you know, those that I care about. So like my close group of friends, yeah, I care what they think of me. But anyone else, I really just don't care. So I've reached I used to be kind of ashamed in high school. Like in high school, I hid the fact that I collected comic books. I hid the fact that I played Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I didn't want people to know those things about me. And now I kind of celebrate them. Now I tell people that I collect comic books. I tell people that I like Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't play the game anymore because it's just too expensive. But trust me, if it wasn't so expensive, I would be playing. But yeah, it's just a point in my life where I realize life is too short to hide the things you love. You might as well embrace them. And I can tell you right off the bat, it's a much better way to live. Anyway, let's get back to the game. This is not a life advice segment from Nick. This is a video game. So anyway, we're scaling the tower right now. It's not really that difficult. The only difficult part is once we get to the top. There's going to be a stealth encounter. And the problem with it is the room itself is a very hard to navigate room. I always have a lot of trouble with it.
I'm nearly at the top.
So I'm going to try to just get through it the best I can. I am sure, actually, I will guarantee you that there are better strategies online than what I'm about to do. But it's like the last stealth encounter of the game, so I don't care about doing it perfectly. It's more of just I want to get through it. If it's pretty, okay, but if it's ugly, I'll take it. So, yeah, just keep scaling the tower here. So the password is going to be, I think it's going to be master plan, if I remember correctly. Oh, maybe maintenance. Okay, never mind, it's maintenance. I thought one of them was master plan. Maybe that's coming up, or maybe I already passed it. Or maybe I'm just going mad. Who knows? Anyway, we're almost to the top, so keep on keeping on. And yeah, so once we get to the top here, Hugo Strange is going to be controlling things from kind of the center room, and we're going to have to eliminate all the guards patrolling the area before we can confront Hugo. And then once we do confront him, that's going to trigger the end of the video. There's going to be about the video's going to end with a like 4-minute cutscene, and it's a very important cutscene. It's probably the most important, maybe not the most important, but it's a very important cutscene to the story. So you're going to want to watch it if you've been following along with the story. Anyway, here we go. We've reached the top room, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about. The whole room is one big circle, and inside there are not a lot of good places to take cover. So what I typically rely on doing is I use these gargoyles. So luckily here there's no signal jammer. That makes things a bit easier. But I'm just going to swing around this entire structure on the gargoyles. So you see here, I took down that guy, and now Hugo's going to alert his men that one of the guys is down, so there we go. And now they're going to come investigate. So you have a couple options here. You can let them all get close, and then you can maybe throw a smoke grenade and just try to take out as many of them as you can with your fists. I have my disruptor armed because my plan here was I thought they were going to step out onto the balcony, and I thought, oh, I'll use my disruptor to, you know, disrupt 2 of their weapons. And that will make my life easier in the future. But now you can see that this guy is the only guy that ended up staying around. So instead of wasting my disruptor on him, I'm just going to hop back down and do the same thing. I'm just going to do a silent takedown. I'm going to let these guys come out, and now you can see my mistake. They do learn. The AI in this game are pretty smart. So the AI, they said, hey, he's probably up on the gargoyles, and sure enough, he looked right up at me, and here I was just sitting there, and I suffered for it. I got shot twice. So not the end of the world by any means, but we just have to alter our plan a bit. So now I'm going to do what I talked about earlier. I'm going to jump down. I'm going to do the smoke grenade, and I'm going to have enough time to take out both of these guys. Got to do this pretty quickly. You got to be fast here. So I'm going to take them out, get back up, and you see I actually got shot again because I lingered for a second too long. So that's a very risky approach. Doing the smoke grenade, that should be something that you do only if your stealth approach isn't working out. Because it's a good way to take down a couple enemies, or at the very least, it's a good way to get rid of the last couple of enemies. So like if those had been the last two guys, I would have been in the clear. That would have been no problem. And again, just notice how this entire time I have not really set foot inside the building. I've been swinging around the building, and that's because, like I said, inside the building, there's not a lot of good cover, and so it's hard to do the stealth. Now, granted, it's only hard because there's so many enemies in there. So after you kind of thin the herd a bit, then you can just jump down there, no problem. So this guy here, I don't know why I did that. I disrupted his weapon, and then I froze him. I could have just froze him from the very beginning and saved my disruptor. But anyway, when you freeze an enemy, you can pretty much do an instant takedown. It's really easy. Now this guy is going to come investigate, and he's the last guy I have to worry about. So I'm just going to kind of swing to a gargoyle so that he doesn't see me. I'm going to prep my disruptor and hopefully finish the job. So he's going to actually end up turning around. That's okay. I'll just adapt, and for the first time, I'll actually sneak in here, disrupt his weapon, and now I can just run up to him and finish off the job. And that's pretty much going to be the end of the level, guys. Then you're going to climb the stairs, approach Hugo Strange, and like I said, that's going to trigger a very, 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 very important cutscene. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that. And then we're done, guys. We're going to be moving on to part 10, which is the last part. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you get the chance. Hope you're enjoying this walkthrough, and well, you must be enjoying it by now if you're still watching it, because this is part 9. But anyway, I will see you in the next video.
The broken bodies you have left in this room, Mara.
You have not won. You cannot win. I, Hugo Strange, am your successor. I have saved Gotham.
Oracle, shut this place down.
My pleasure.
You've ruined everything. Get your hands off me.
Look at what you've done.
It's glorious, isn't it?
You're finished, Strange.
I have powerful friends, Batman. This is just the beginning. You cannot stop me. Soon I will command forces beyond your comprehension. I have achieved what the great Batman could never do. Gotham will forever thank Hugo Strange!
Your part in this is over, Professor Strange.
Why? I did everything you wanted.
Indeed. You clearly demonstrated that Batman is better than you. Let him die, Detective.
He was your puppet, Raish. Why?
You said I could replace you. This was our vision.
And you failed to see it through.
But
when you came to me with Batman's identity, I gave you this chance to prove your worth, providing you with limitless resources for your plan. You came close, but you have failed me.
He's going to die, Raish. He needs medical attention. Now!
Do as you wish, Detective. He's already dead to me.
I'm so close. Just give me more time.
Too late. I don't give second chances. This is a good day, Detective.
Good? People are dying.
The world will not miss them. Why should you? Look at my work. You may have defeated Strange, but this is just the beginning. Come with me. We will wipe this world clean.
Never. You're wrong, Raish. You've become what you've always fought against. And I will stop you.
I doubt it.
Computer, activate Protocol 11.
What are you doing?
Passcode.